Well, everyone, time to talk about another device that I personally liked, I personally loved, but maybe the market didn't really, hype it up too much as it was. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it seemed like once this phone came out, literally it was a talk of the town for like a couple of weeks. And then, I think the OnePlus series of devices eventually came out. Eventually, the SA2 came out as well. And then that kind of took the storm. And we've pretty much been talking only about the budget phones since then. And I feel like, and I've said this before, as phones keep getting more and more expensive, it just seems like less and less people want to talk about those more expensive devices and rather talk about those more budget ones. And this is a classic case. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra came out 6 months ago, which it doesn't even feel like it. It's been about 6 months. Maybe it's like 2 weeks short or something. But the fact of the matter is that when this phone came out, it wasn't a cheap phone by any means. In fact, I think it was one of the most expensive phones Samsung has ever put out. And that is one of the crazier things. I think it's the most expensive public version phone they've had. I think they had a couple ones that were like crazy. And of course, we're talking about the Samsung Galaxy Fold devices as well, which are more expensive, and the Z Flip. But for a commonly used phone, this thing is up there. And there was a lot of hype for this thing when it first came out. And what I can tell you is that everything about this device has held up extremely well within the last 6 months. And I can tell you, this phone is even better now than when it first came out. And there's so many reasons for it, but it's just so crazy because, first of all, the price tag, this thing, I think it was $1,400 when it first came out. I paid around that. I think I paid a little bit less than that when I first got it. You can pick these things up right now for about $1,000 from Amazon. So they're a little bit cheaper there. I don't know if they're brand new, if they're certified refurbished, but they are about $400 cheaper if you want to pick them up from there. So I'll find the cheapest ones on Amazon and link them down in the description below so you can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, everything about this phone has held up extremely well. The main things that we've seen changed aren't even necessarily with the phone, but with the phones released after this, including the OnePlus series of devices, which are great, as well as the Note series of devices. And there's a lot of conflicting stuff. I mean, with the Note 20 and the Note 20 Ultra, they're not really as great of a phone, in my opinion, as the Galaxy S20 Ultra. I feel like this phone is a truly ultra phone. It is a crazy device, has a ton of capability, and so do the other phones and a ton of other phones that have came out since then. But this phone has a lot of value for sure. Now, that 6.9-inch dynamic AMOLED display on this thing is still holding up extremely well. It feels really good in the hand. It looks really good. And that is one of its biggest advantages. When you look at it, it just looks like a very premium device. And I don't see it, for the next several years, how this thing could look old by any means. And you look at a phone like the iPhone 10, even the Galaxy S8, and those phones have held up pretty well over time. And this phone, I don't know how much better. I mean, though, eventually the camera will be under the display, but I don't know how they can go any higher than this, to be honest. And I can't wait, 3, 4, 5 years from now when I'm proven wrong by that. And they have phones that have, like a crazy thing inside of them. Now, with a phone like this, you do have the hole punch display. You have the 120 Hz refresh rate as well, which is extremely good. And you have that IP68 dust and water resistance, which is still extremely awesome. And everything about this phone has held up in terms of the display. It really just depends. Do you like a big phone? Do you like a small phone? For the people who like the big phones, it doesn't get much bigger than this unless you want to go for those folding devices. You still have USB Type-C on the bottom, the glass back on the back. Now, we have kind of shifted over to a more frosted glass back on a majority of devices, including the Note series, except for the Note 20. That's a frosted plastic, as well as the OnePlus series. So I feel like with the next year, Galaxy, Samsung is going to really put those frosted glass backs on the Galaxy devices instead of this standard glass back. It still feels really good though. And you do have that quadruple camera setup kind of on the Galaxy S20 Ultra as well. And feeling this phone in the hand, it still feels like an extremely premium device. You have the microSD card slot. That is held up extremely well. And like I stated before, there's not really too much to hate on the phone like this. It feels, looks, and performs extremely well 6 months later. Now, software-wise, this is one of its biggest changes, I think, in my opinion. So this thing started off with Android 10. We did get the update for One UI 2.5, which is really, really cool. But the craziest thing is that in the Samsung keynote they did for the Galaxy Note 20 and Note 20 Ultra, we saw that Samsung actually said that all the devices starting from the Galaxy S10 are going to be getting an extra year of software updates, which is insane. Samsung did not say this in the Galaxy S keynote, so that means the Galaxy S20, S20 Plus, and S20 Ultra are all going to be getting an extra year of software support. Now, let me tell you what this means. That means that if you pick up this phone next year, at the same time that the S30 or S21 comes out, think about this. That's going to be pretty much like getting a brand new Samsung Galaxy S device a year later in terms of software support, because from all the devices that have been released from Samsung, all of them had the same exact software update lifecycle for the most part, the last couple versions at least. So that's a really cool thing that they did. I wasn't expecting to hear that. I knew they were going to do it at some point, but that's really, really awesome. So for sure, that is definitely one of my favorite aspects about this device, especially one of its biggest developments in the last 6 months would definitely be that new software lifecycle they're doing. Also, the One UI 2.5 update is extremely cool as well. I updated on my S20 and all my other devices that I can support it with, and it's a very good software, and I'd recommend anybody who has an S20 Ultra to definitely update their device to One UI 2.5. So that pretty much covers it up in terms of the software standpoint. Performance is still exactly the same. You still have the Snapdragon 865, octa-core CPU, Adreno 650, and the 12 gigs of RAM. And like I said before, the only main changes that I've seen would only come in the form of all the other devices that have came out, including the OnePlus 8s, the Note 20s, and this thing, performance is still top tier. I think the Note 20 only comes in 8 gigs of RAM as well. The Note 20 Ultra is a little bit more, but still the 12 gigs of RAM for that base model, there's only one model of this thing, is extremely cool. It's an extremely fast device. I never had any problems with it. I've done a ton of comparisons. I've done a lot of other things. Still top tier. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. So in terms of the performance, it's still holding up extremely well. I don't have any issues there. And if you're getting this phone, you'll probably not have to upgrade for a long time after this, because it's still an extremely fast device. And even when it comes down to the cameras, we still have that quadruple camera setup, the 108 megapixel wide, 48 megapixel telephoto, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 0.3 megapixel depth sensor. And to be honest, I haven't really heard too many people talk about this camera after it was released. I think for the first couple of weeks, even after the keynote, it was talked about heavily. Now nobody really talks about it. Nobody even talks about the Note 20. Everybody's talking about the iPhone 12 right now, which is perfectly fine. I like talking about the iPhone 12 too. But this phone's camera is very good. The sensor on it is extremely nice. I like it a lot. The only problem with the camera is that it makes the phone extremely top heavy. So if you don't have a case, it could definitely feel like you're about to drop it. So I'd recommend getting a case for it. But other than it being top heavy, there's really not too much to hate. I mean, it's probably the best phone camera you got right now. You can do 8K videos, you can do 4K 60, which is a given. So for sure, the camera quality on this thing gets a thumbs up for me. It's an extremely good camera for sure. And ending it off with the battery life, you still have that 5,000 mAh battery, which is amazing. That's a huge battery size on this phone. It's a big phone, so what do you expect? And I can tell you, I mean, first of all, wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, extremely awesome. And you have all those other capabilities that this phone has too. And one of the biggest advantages for the 5,000 mAh battery is that you can keep all those features on. You can keep that 120 hertz. You can keep all those other things and not really have to worry about battery life too much. Those things will definitely, give into the battery a little bit and not degrade it, but, kill the battery a little bit faster, but it's still in a pretty good battery life over time. And I think it's a really good battery life if you're trying to get a phone that has all the bells and whistles and will definitely make you through the day. So what I can tell you is, at the end of the day, this phone itself is an extremely good phone. I have no issues with it whatsoever. It's still holding up extremely well 6 months later. And even after its initial release, it has gotten better and better and has become a better deal. There has not been any, controversial problems of this device. There hasn't been anything like that. And when you have a phone like this, you want to make it last as long as possible. You want to make it as good of a phone as possible. And what's really good about this is that you can pick up this phone now and not have to worry about it for so many months and so many years later. Like, you'll just have to remember to update it every once in a while. And what's great is that this phone is only getting better. Maybe it'll get an update that makes it more stock and not so bloated. Who knows? The world is the limit. So for sure, it's gotten cheaper and it's gotten better. So what more could you want from a phone like this? So that's really it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.